I managed to get myself together, Fred. Fred, can I tell you, I actually came across the first time. Hold on, let me turn this. Hold on a second. Um, I came across a video of the first time you came on my stream, the only time you came on my stream, but the first time I talked to you. Do you remember that? Dude, it was so I don't know if I grabbed the clip from it. I kind of was gonna grab the clip this week and play it. If I have it, I'll play it, but I don't know that I do. But let me tell you guys this. Hold on, let me get myself together. Whatever. It is what it is. Okay. So I like hold on a second. I just put eye drops in my eyes and they're burning. So I apologize. I look funny. Hey, happy Wednesday. Okay, so you guys, seriously, did you like my little intro to the show, that little 15 second. Okay, so let me turn this banner off too. So listen, this these look, you know what? Oh my God, I can't even get the words out, you guys. This case is ridiculous. I can't believe it. Where's Hate Your State? I gotta text Hate Your State. Oh my God, I forgot to tell him I was going live, but he's watching this trial too. We gotta do maybe Friday because they're gonna be they're gonna have the trial. There's no testimony tomorrow, but there's gonna be testimony on Friday all day. So what about a Friday night stream? What do you guys think? I'm thinking, let's do it. Because, dude, look, I didn't know anything about this case. People were talking about it. And I don't really do a lot of true crime. I spend my time reading other things and doing other things, not necessarily. I don't watch TV. I watch videos a lot of painting videos or learning videos or how-to videos, that kind of stuff. But that's it. And yeah, you're in. Yeah, I mean, I think that Friday night we should totally do it. I'm gonna try to collect all the clips that I've got. Maybe that's kind of like a lot to do in a couple of days. And I got a whole bunch of stuff going on. Wesley's birthday, my grandson, is coming up soon. In like a week and a half. He's gonna be 4. You guys, I'm super excited about it. So anyways, let's talk about what I want to talk about, and that is this interview. See, now this Karen broad, she is, look, I don't know the backstory. I didn't watch the first trial. I know nothing about it. So I've got questions. And, because we're only a few days in, really, of testimony. And let me tell you, something ain't right. And I'm just hearing little bits and it just is dragging on. Look, for all intents and purposes, I understand why they have to go through the whole rigmarole of their training and introducing their experts and getting all this testimony. It's like me, I'm like, let me see all of your exhibits. Just give me all the evidence. I'll put this story together. That kind of a thing. So today, I had a little bit of time at the end of my day, and I was putting together this timeline. I was utilizing my Obsidian on my phone, and so let's see. Okay, so I got the Karen Read timeline, and I'm still adding to it. So I only got this far in 15 minutes, but there's a whole freaking timeline here that I got to go back and go through all these clips. So I think I might do that, unless I'm going to see. I know that somebody's got this stuff somewhere. If you have it, send me a link so that I got all the evidence. and it just would make it so much easier. Because the way that the Englishman like presented the evidence, he was telling this story instead of, you know what, I don't know, so that we could make sense of it. Look, give us the data, put it in layman's terms. I mean, that's all you need to do. It is what there is. There a woman to blame in this? Yes, Farmer Fred. There's a woman to blame. I think. Look, this Jen broad girl, she's dirty. She is so dirty. Oh, she's dirty, and she's got so much Botox. I'm sorry, Jesus, but like, if it's not true, correct me. Okay, I think she's wearing a wig too, but that's me. I think that's wig hair. I mean, because her forehead is way the heck back there, and see, don't look at my gray hair. So, but yeah, it's extraordinarily large, but it could be, you know, I don't know. We don't know. So, let's pull up the video that we're going to watch tonight. It is actually an interview with Karen Read. I was trying to download this video. Hold on. Oh, did it finally? Yeah, I mean, this Jen broad, holy smokes. I'm telling you guys, she accidentally, I think, outed like an officer. I don't think she meant to do it, but she did. And I almost, no, I don't need to do that one. Okay. Let me make sure that downloaded. Okay. What was I just saying? So she outed this police officer, and I think she realized it after. She said, I didn't take a longer clip, and I wish that I would have, but you know, it's kind of like a clip tease. Clip tease. Oh, I get it. You get it? Clip tease. Oh my God, that's kind of funny. Anyways, okay, kind of dirty though. I don't know if I like that. Anyways, okay, so let me, I'm just gonna upload the video real quick. It's like a 19-second video. It'd take like 30 seconds here, 40, 50 seconds. It's almost done. I'll play this for you. It was so weird. let me just, if I can remember my thought process on this, I'm going to share that with you. So this is a little clip of Jen today. Jen with her big mouth. Jen's a talker. Unfortunately, Jen is a storyteller. Let Jen tell her story. There's a couple of other things that she said today that I was like, oh my God. I don't know.
Incorrect. I didn't lie to them. I had forgotten who I had called.
And all of a sudden you had an epiphany right after they walked out the door?
Yes. Matt said, who have you spoken to?
Objection.
I'm going to allow it. It's out. You're not to go any further, Mr. Jackson.
Incorrect. I didn't.
I want you to look at her eyes. Look at how many times she blinks in this 19 seconds. Let's count it. Let's count how many times she blinks in 19 seconds. I want to know.
Incorrect. I didn't lie to them. I had forgotten who I had called.
And all of a sudden you had an epiphany right after they walked out the door?
Yes. Matt said, who have you spoken to?
Objection.
I'm going to allow it. It's out. You're not to go any further, Mr. Jackson.
17 times in 19 seconds. 17 blinks in 19 seconds. This broad's eyes, it's like, and then the amount of Botox. I'm sorry, but am I wrong? Like, look at that again. Look at her. Look at her. Look at it. Look at
Incorrect.
it.
I didn't lie to them. I had forgotten who I had called.
You see
And
that?
all of a sudden you had an epiphany right after they walked out the door?
Not a wrinkle.
Yes. Matt said, who have you spoken to?
Objection.
I'm going to allow it. It's out. You're not to go
Hold on,
any
hold on,
further.
hold on.
Mr. Judge.
We're gonna play one more time. We're gonna count. We're gonna count as she's doing it.
Incorrect. I didn't lie to them. I had forgotten who I had called.
And all of a sudden, you had an epiphany right after they walked out the door?
Yes. Matt said, who have you spoken to?
Objection.
I'm going to allow it. It's out. You're not to go any further, Mr. Judge.
18, she was doing this. Like, I got past it. Yeah, I duped him. No, ma'am. You ain't fooling nobody. Just Google it. It sounds like a good one. What? You just Googled the trial? Okay, yeah. So catch up, Farmer Fred. What's the matter with you? You're late to the party. And so am I, like a whole trial late. I'm serious. Very interesting. You know what? I didn't even let me pull up. Let's pull this up because we're gonna watch this interview that Karen Reed did with the local Boston 25 newscast guy. I don't know them. I don't watch Boston news, but I've actually been watching the trial on I think like Boston 10 or something. It's one of their local channels. It's pretty funny. I found that they have the most fun chat. And so it's because they're funny. Oh my God, these guys, it's pretty funny. I've met my people because they're as sarcastic as I am. It's super funny, but I love it. So, anyways, I'm sorry. Let's see, share, and we are going to do this one right here. Share, and we're going to do it like that. Dismiss. I don't know why that keeps doing that. So I have that. I wish that I could. Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna watch this. I hope I don't want to talk over it. I don't know how to adjust these sounds. So I will probably stop it to talk and say something from now on because I realize that I'm doing that. And I'm sorry. I'm not very good at, I'm not a streamer. I'm just hey, let's hang out because I want to talk to people. And those people are you. Right, Farmer Fred? Yeah, Farmer Fred. And I'm sure we got probably Viper over there on, what is that? Twitch. And Rumble, we got a few people over there too. So that's cool. Let's watch. Let's see what this broad has to say because I don't know her story. I don't know what she said. There's more than one interview. She's not afraid to talk to these cameras. And that's a clue, folks. I mean, I'm curious to see what she says. I haven't seen any of her interviews. I've seen little clips that they've been playing during this trial, but that's about it. So let's get into it, shall we? Okay, go on. Well, I can't hit play on that thing. I gotta go on to this tab. Here we go.
Full disclosure, we invited you here, but of course, it is unusual for someone who's accused of murder to do this interview or others. Why do you want to speak to the people of Massachusetts?
I had to keep my hand on the pause button. Yeah, let's answer this question. Why is she talking? You know what?
And beyond.
I have nothing to hide. My life is in the balance, and it shouldn't be. And I believe sunlight is the best disinfectant, and that's been our team motto since inception. I think the more I've seen, the more information the public has, the more they understand what we already know.
And when we talk about the public, there's so much going on in the atmosphere of this case. How much of that do you pay attention to?
I pay attention a little bit to everything. The parts of the public that seem a little dirtier than others, I have close friends and people I trust that filter through it because there are threads of important information in every channel of the public on social media, just out and about in Norfolk County or in Suffolk, through our emails. So what I can't manage or don't want to manage, we have a lot of it covered from people that we trust and people who support us.
People said some pretty nasty things about you online. Do you read that? Do you process
I read some
that?
of it. I don't take it to heart, but it's bothersome. But I understand why it is. There are bad, evil, nefarious players in this. There are people who are adverse to other people in this whole case. People who support me, and I've known my whole life, as does everyone, that there's not a lot of good in some people, and it doesn't drag me down in any way. It makes me feel like we're covering ground here. The nastier it gets, the more I know that we're making an impact to people that have a lot to worry about. 3
years have now passed since John's death. How much do you think about him with everything else that is going on?
I think about him in terms of his final days, his final weeks. I mean, we have his cell phone, which a cell phone to anyone is like a diary, and it tracks everything you've done. And I've gone over and over his final movements, his heart rate, his injuries, the time that he did everything that day and the days leading up to it. But I've said this to other people. The time that I spent with John, 2 years, it's now been 3 since he's gone, since he was killed. And I'm a year beyond. I've eclipsed the time that I spent with him. And I have very mixed feelings, when I look back on John, because I see a lot of poor decisions that were all precursors to his death and to this nightmare that I'm living.
I think he got his ass. Look, I think one of these guys kicked his ass. I think that homeowner knows. And I think they're all covering up. And I think that that's why the DOJ got involved. That's my own personal, that's just without me even digging. I don't even know. That's just the appearance of it.
Poor decisions by whom?
By both of us. Just drinking, being around the wrong people is chief among them. Wrong people for the weeks leading up. They wouldn't have been people I would have chosen on my own to be around.
Have you been able to start a new social life, a new dating life since this?
No, I have my friends that were always in my life. I'm closer to them than ever. And it's been kind of a bittersweet silver lining is I don't know that I ever would have known my friends and family had this in them to be there for me in this way.
And I see this. I see this compared to, wait, where is it?
Incorrect. I didn't lie to them. I had forgotten who I had called.
And all of a sudden you had an epiphany right after they walked out the door?
Yes. Matt said, who have you spoken to?
Object.
Yeah. As opposed to that. You know what I'm saying? Wow. They both have multiple sclerosis, apparently. Isn't that interesting?
So I feel very fortunate. And I've met so many new people. And that's enough of a life for me right now is, we go out for dinner just to get out, and we end up just kind of hungered down over a table discussing the case. And I value their input and
See, now there's a difference between her talking to people about this case that have nothing to do with the case, weren't there, don't know nothing, as opposed to Jen. When Jen discussed the case today, she admitted in court that, in fact, she discussed it with everybody. And in fact, that the investigators and the police never separated anybody. And they took statements from witnesses in this very same house where they were all gathered around and sitting together waiting at a kitchen or dining table for the next one to get interviewed. I mean, the absurdities of this is just, I mean, cops everywhere are looking at this going, what? Or well, investigators everywhere are going, what? Wait, what? If I would have did that on a case, I would have got reamed. Oh boy, oh boy. Oh my goodness. Continue.
I'm content with my social life, even though it's really just socializing about the case.
How big is Karen Reed's inner circle?
My inner circle, well, half of it's my attorneys who we just talk so much. There's always so much ground to cover, and we can't wait until trial starts to really begin strategizing or going through the details. We do a little bit every day.
Do a lot every day.
We do I should say we do a little bit in proportion to the total task at hand, but we cover a lot of hours every day. I probably talk to Alan and Liza each 3 or 4 times a day. And it makes us all feel good that we're going to be that much more prepared when we have to do this for round 2. But my inner circle, I don't know.
Does anybody know what her actual job? Does she have a job? What does she do for a living? I don't even know what she does for a living or any of that. That's how little I really know. Oh, bad look for you, ma'am. Sorry about that.
It's bigger than it was. It's bigger than it was before, but it feels stronger than it ever was. I know that I can trust the people that I chose to have in my life.
Is that 5, 10?
10 maybe.
Okay.
Really, really tight, it's probably 5.
Alan, have you ever had a client who's advocated for themselves as much as Karen does?
Not as articulately or as intelligently as Karen does. Karen is an innocent woman falsely accused. She could sit back and say, go handle this. You're the professionals, go deal with it. That is not in her personality. And we're a better team for it. She has an encyclopedic knowledge of literally every single page of the discovery. I've never seen anything like it. She has an analyst's brain. She's got a rapier intelligence that is attendant to this type of analysis. Very, very smart, very motivated. She has no off button. I'm getting texts. I wake up, I'm on the West Coast. So I wake up, she's been awake for 3 hours, and nearly every day I feel like, damn it, I've fallen back again. I've fallen behind again. Liza and I have to sort of get back on the treadmill and catch up with where Karen is today, because she'll literally just pick something out of the blue. To me, it's out of the blue. To her brain, it makes sense for her to pull this document or pull this report and say, well, have we thought about this paragraph or this sentence or this word in this report here or there? And then we gather together as a team, me and David and Liza and Karen will get on the phone and talk it through. So she's been...
Okay, so I just looked it up. She is... not going to believe this one. She is a financial analyst who was also an adjunct finance professor at Bentley University. She was previously employed by Fidelity Investments and Sensata Technologies. She was also a client account manager at Brown Brothers Harriman and trading room assistant at the Huey Center for Financial Services. So this broad's probably independently wealthy. Interesting. She's not a stupid woman. She's a smart woman.
More than any other client I've ever seen, any other client I've ever met, she's been at the center of her own defense. She knows she didn't do this. She's motivated to make sure that the truth comes out.
Has she made any seminal decisions in this case? Have we seen any filings that are directly from her decision and her thought process of how things should play out?
The better question is, have we seen any filings that she didn't have a seminal investment in, a decision about, a suggestion about? Every single thing that you've ever seen filed in this case has gone through Karen, at least.
She's probably been studying law for the past 3 years at this point. I mean,
Some of them are hyper legal, right? But she's educated herself on. She'd make a better lawyer than most lawyers these days. But she will have an impact, and she's got a seat at the table in terms of strategy and tactics that we use every single day.
There are so many people who have never met you, but are so invested in your life and the outcome of this case. I know there are some who adamantly support you, but do you ever worry about your safety with the people who do not want to see you succeed in this case?
I would think she'd have a
I did
security-
more earlier on. I
Mom,
feel
that
more insulated now. I feel safer that people know, because if anything ever happened to me or someone that I love, I think a lot of people would know where to look. So that makes me feel safer.
Have you received any credible threats?
Yep, I have. There's been some online that just the fact that someone's brazen enough to even post something like that gives you some insight into their stability or lack thereof.
People showing up at your house, calling your private cell phone?
No, that has not. I've really not had my physical boundaries impinged in any way, nor have my parents. I think by and large, very large, there are very friendly people all around me.
Your defense strategy is the most aggressive I've ever seen in a case. You've taken on the DA, you've taken on the judge. How much of that is Karen Read? How much is that the team?
Probably equal parts. The defense strategy comes down to probably 3 or 4 words: get the truth out. That's the defense strategy. It may be more aggressive than you're used to. The conduct in this case is more dire than I'm used to. I've seen a lot of cases. I've been doing this for 30 years. I don't think I've ever seen a case with as many questions, as many suspect actions, and as much.
Oh, there is so. I just let him say it. It's ridiculous.
Suspect conduct, as I've seen in this case. There is unequivocally corruption in this case. There are absolutely cover-ups in this case.
Yes.
There's conduct by law enforcement and the DA's office, the likes of which I've never seen.
Yes.
And my job, our job as a team, is to get that truth out. I'm not going to.
And they act like, well, they play dumb. You know, the thing is, they're so well versed in it. Hi, what's up, mate? Oh, it's the wrong one. What's up, mate? What's up? And so, like, they're so well versed in their corruption, in their lies. It's like this is like they believe their lies. I would love to put every one of them on a lie detector test. Oh my god, on a polygraph. Ooh, that'd be fun.
Sit idly by. Our team is never going to sit idly by and let an innocent woman be convicted based on false evidence, false pretenses, cover-ups, agreements and decisions on the other side to hamstring the defense, hamstring our ability to get the truth out. I'm not going to sit idly by to do that. So is it aggressive? Sure, it's aggressive. But a woman's life is in the balance. So yeah, we're going to stay aggressive. We've been aggressive. We're going to stay aggressive
there's no jury that's going to convict her just based on what I've seen so far. But it's, we're only a few days in, a weekend, whatever. But still, I think I know who did it, and I don't even know all the facts yet. But we're getting there.
Until the truth comes out.
I think it was 4 words at the end of the last trial, and it was, "I'm going to declare a mistrial." What was that like for you to take in?
It was the outcome that I had thought about the least. I had thought about the best case scenario, and I always think about the worst because that's how I'm able to process. I have to think it through. How will I deal with this? Who will fight for me if I'm not sitting here to fight for myself? And of course, I thought about an acquittal because I know I deserve it. I had not really thought about a mistrial. It was only a couple days. It was like day 2, the end of day 2 into the deliberations, that both David and Alan told me separately when we were in the church next door that this could be a mistrial. And the prospect of that at that time during jury deliberations was a gut punch. But then when it was declared, it was such a relief that I was free. I was free to sleep in my own bed, hug my parents, continue to work on this case. My immediate next worry was,
Wait, was she in jail for the first trial? I'm gonna look that up. I don't
I
know.
hope I have my team
No idea.
available
You
to go to battle all over
if
again.
she was in jail for the
But
first
those
trial.
moments, waiting to hear 12 strangers determine what is going to physically happen to you for the foreseeable future or forever. When you're able to walk out a free woman or man, it was an incredible relief. You just see your life it can just be taken away from you.
As we head to the second trial, one of the possible outcomes here could be a conviction. That could be prison time. How much have you thought about that?
I think about it every day, about prison time, and it doesn't frighten me.
She was not in jail for the first trial. She was charged. She's arrested and charged with manslaughter, motor vehicle homicide, and leaving the scene of a collision causing death. Boy, they gave her wow. They weren't even trying to do murder. They were trying to be lenient with the charges so that she would just accept that and get a plea. Wow, these guys are dirty. Now, what are they charging her with? Murder? What is it? What are they charging her with now? Fuck.
The way it did
Guys.
3 years ago. I was arrested 3 years ago tomorrow, and I've been in jail twice as a result of this prosecution. I've now accepted the fact that what's happening to me and the awareness this case has raised and the eyes it's opened, that is what my purpose is in Massachusetts and whatever effect this has in other parts of the country. And even if a jury got it wrong or there's even more nefarious behavior on behalf of this prosecution, then just even more awareness will be raised. So I can accept whatever happens. Nothing will ever get the best of me or break me down.
There have been sort of these unsubstantiated claims in the atmosphere that there might have been some funny business with the jurors who were dismissed.
Now,
Right. Is
okay,
this
so
a-
check this out. Apparently, this part coming up here, I didn't notice. I noticed this earlier when I was checking out this video. This is the most replayed area here that's coming up in the next 3-4 minutes. So let's.
Real concern that you have? Is this something that you are looking at, or have you just dismissed it as rumor?
I'll never just dismiss that as rumor. Something like that is, it's too convenient for the prosecution for us to just dismiss out of hand. Do I have any evidence, specific evidence, that there was jury tampering? I don't have any specific evidence of it. Do I think that there are questions that should be asked? Do I think that there are questions that have been raised about the way the jurors were dismissed, and who was dismissed very specifically? There were jurors who very, very clearly throughout, it's impossible to sit 8 feet away from 12 or 15 folks and not get an idea, just a chemistry idea of where those jurors are one way or the other based on certain, body language and facial expressions, etc., sighs and huffs and arm folds and leaning forward, leaning back, things of that nature based on certain witnesses. It's interesting that three of probably the most stalwart jurors who we believed, and I will go to my grave believing, were very supportive of the defense, ended up cast aside within minutes, not days or hours, within minutes of the jurors deliberating, within minutes of me standing up and giving my final summation. Those three jurors were gone. So is that a query? Absolutely. Have I dismissed it? I'll never dismiss it. Is there anything to do about it? Not so sure.
One of the state troopers who was involved with the Norfolk DA's office and on the periphery of the investigation was also responsible for the jury?
Right. He wasn't that far on the periphery of the investigation. He was
What?
involved in the investigation. He was a direct supervisor over the individuals that were testifying and over and about whom we had leveled some very, very serious claims and ended up proving those claims during the course of direct and cross-examination, the presentation of our case. That person, that supervisor, we found out well into the trial. As a matter of fact, at the end of the trial, we found out is the very person who was governing the jurors. That's a question that should be raised. That is an issue that should.
Boy, this is so crazy. The amount of corruption that is involved. I'm shocked at wow. And you can see it though.
Teased out. Should
like,
never ever.
Any law enforcement officer or investigator, they know these things. Even a lawyer, anybody who's ever been involved in like legal proceedings and things like this knows. I mean, Jesus, if you watch TV like Law and Order and things like that, you know these things. You know what? Like, you got to be pretty dumb not to know to separate witnesses before getting their statements. There's just numero uno. That's the number one thing. I just don't even get that one. I mean, I get what she's trying to say, what Jen was saying today. Like, well, we were just friends and family sitting around talking about what just happened. It was so traumatizing. So traumatizing, Jen. You didn't shed one tear, girl. I didn't even see your freaking face move. Problem. I think a little too much Botox got you, babe. Sorry, but come on, man. Jeez.
Never happen. That is the very definition of a conflict of interest.
Is that
we found out is the very person who was governing the jurors. That's a question that should be raised. That is an issue that should be teased out. Should never, ever happen. That is the very definition of a conflict of interest.
Is that standard in Massachusetts for just the DA's office to assign whoever they want to go be the sort of,
supervisor
of the jury? Yeah.
Yeah. Is it standard in Massachusetts? I hope not. I've never seen that in my life.
I mean, I know it's not that big, but
if I had a nickel for every time I said I've never seen this in my life as it pertains to the Massachusetts justice system, the criminal justice system,
is it like 3
I have
counties?
a lot of nickels. I've never seen that happen. It should never have happened. It's abhorrent to the system of justice in which we work. Those kinds of conflicts of interest they just can't stand. But they did, and we weren't even told about it. I mean, that was one of the most galling parts of that revelation is that wait, this has been happening under our nose the entire trial, and I'm just now finding out about it. We would have made hay about it as soon as we found out, and we did.
Oh.
But it was 10 minutes before I was about to stand up and close the case.
Some of the things that Michael Proctor said about you were objectively
Proctor!
vicious. What
Don't
was
get
it
me
like to
started.
be
I got
there in
something
court and listen to all those texts?
Another relief. So many moments in court were a relief to me because I've known these things in some cases for years and had to keep it amongst our inner circle. Nothing Michael Proctor texted and admitted out loud in court about me would ever offend me. I'm proud of my overcoming of health crises. Proctor was just letting the public know what I've known about Michael Proctor, who he really is. And it's just luck that, as I know it, Michael Proctor doesn't have a daughter. But those text messages, as vile as they are, I think are the least of his offenses.
Alan, you could have had Michael Proctor read one or two of the text. You spent hours having him read those out loud. I'm sure that was done by design.
It was. Everything that we did in that cross-examination of Michael Proctor was done by design. I wanted to make sure that I had an audience of 12 folks, an undefined 12 folks sitting in that jury box who were going to make a judgment about, not just about Karen Read, they were going to make a judgment about the prosecution and about the investigating officer in charge of the prosecution or in charge of the investigation. They needed to see and hear a full panoply of who this person really is and get down to the fabric of the human being. That's the only way they could assess the veracity of the entire investigation.
And this lawyer is actually very good. He puts, the funny thing is that right at the beginning of the trial, the judge, and she keeps saying it, disregard the comments made by the lawyers. The prosecutor and the defense are both doing it. They got their little comments and jabs, their little passive aggressive, one-liners or couple statements that say, I bet, or yeah, I wonder, or whatever. They're pretty funny. It's good stuff.
As goes the investigating officer, goes the investigation. And the prosecution, the Commonwealth, wanted to hide that. They wanted to mask it. They didn't want to give those data over to us. They didn't want to give those texts to us. They tried mightily in front of the court to and get down to the fabric of the human being. That's the only way they could assess the veracity of the entire investigation. As goes the investigating officer, goes the investigation. And the prosecution, the Commonwealth, wanted to hide that. They wanted to mask it. They didn't want to give those data over to us. They didn't want to give those texts to us. They tried mightily in front of the court to get those suppressed. Why? Because as goes the investigator, goes the prosecution. The texts were vile. They were disgusting. They were not just, as Michael Proctor tried to slough them off, regrettable, Mr. Proctor.
Now, I've heard about these texts. I don't know what they are. Maybe we'll go and see. Maybe they'll tell us. I don't know.
Seriously, that's the best you can come up with in terms of what the things that you're saying and the bias that you're showing about a criminal defendant and accused who has yet to be.
I got to get my red dye in before,
convicted of anything. That's the best you can say is it's regrettable. It's far beyond regrettable. It's disgusting. It's disturbing. That man should not ever carry a badge. That man should not ever carry a gun. He should never have any authority over the community members ever again.
Are you surprised that he's been fighting for his job?
Yeah. What I think he should probably do is put his tail between his legs and get out of the jurisdiction and go find some other line of work, someplace where he can't hurt people.
How will Michael Proctor play in the retrial?
Oh, he's going to play large in the retrial. They can't. The prosecution, I think, probably wants very badly to take some magic eraser, some pixie dust, and erase Michael Proctor from the minds of the public, and certainly not from the minds of the new jury who's going to come in and assess this case. They're not going to be able to do it, not as long as we're breathing. Michael Proctor is going to be a part of this case, whether he likes it or not.
Because they don't necessarily have to call him, but obviously you have a right to call him as a witness.
Correct, and we will. If they don't call him, we will. We're not going to allow the Commonwealth to hide the truth from the last jury or this upcoming jury.
He's touched everything, everything.
There's no part of the case that he hasn't affected. No part of the case that he hasn't affected.
Wow.
He was in charge of the entire investigation. The personality and the character of the investigation is the personality and the character of Michael Proctor. They're one and the same. And we'll make sure that that's disclosed to the jury.
The feds devoted a lot of time and resources investigating what happened here. We are now years removed from that, and there's been no action taken. Why is that?
Well, I don't know that there's been no action taken. We don't.
I'll tell you why, because they're gonna wait to see. They're gonna wait for more evidence. They're gonna wait to see what these motherfuckers do this time, and then they're gonna freaking drop the freaking hammer. Trust me. Trust me. They're just building a case, and you know what they're gonna do? They're gonna use this to their advantage. You know what? They might just use them as informants at this point. I don't know. They could do that because they're looking at some bigger case. We don't know, but what we do know, apparently, that the feds looked at them for good reason. I didn't realize that that's why the feds got involved, but that's pretty typical because it's pretty plain and simple. It's pretty clear as day that there's huge amount of corruption that's going on, especially with the way all of the victim and witnesses were treated. Victim being Karen and John. Yeah. And I think that what's that, Carrie? I think Carrie's gonna freaking realize it. I don't think Carrie knows how corrupt these folk are. I could be wrong. I haven't heard much more from her, but I think that she is a little bit more in shock about what's going on. And I think that Jen has kept her close to keep her on her side and whispering things in her ear. But I think if Carrie prays about it, she'll freaking, I think the Lord will show her right where the truth lies. Anyways, let's continue this. I'm shocked at all of this. This is, oh my gosh, what's next?
Know about any action taken. There's lots of, it's like
But no indictments.
no indictments, but it's like looking at a duck on water, Ted. The duck is very still, it's very stable, but underneath the little flippers are going crazy. I don't know what's happening just beneath the surface. I don't know what's happening. I'm not privy to what the federal investigation is actually, where it's going or how far it's led to this point. I do know that they were seminal in providing us with information. And when I say us, it's important to note, providing both sides. They didn't pick a side or choose a side in this. They provided everything that they decided was disclosable. They provided to both sides. The Commonwealth decided they didn't want to use it. As a matter of fact, tried mightily to keep us from using it. Thank goodness cooler heads prevailed, and we were able to utilize much of what their investigation or what their disclosure consisted of. But if it hadn't been for them, the Commonwealth had been hiding evidence from us for years. And it wasn't until the federal investigation and revelation came to pass that we actually sort of were able to look behind the curtain, which is where we should have been looking in the first place. So it was central to our presentation of our defense.
Leah Foley will be the third U.S. attorney, as far as we know, who will at least touch this case.
Right.
Do you expect that having a new head of the U.S. Attorney's Office in Boston will change anything?
I don't know. I would.
Wait a second. So did they hire a U.S. attorney to question their witness? Because if they did that, that's interesting. Oh, so if the judge is in on it, in any case, if the judge is in on it, then I mean, you have to understand when they're feds like this and they're trained by the FBI or the Federal Bureau of Investigation or the Department of Justice or DOD or whatever, they start giving them they give them PSYOP info. They start teaching them different techniques to utilize to get from point A to point B, but doing it in roundabout ways in order to, you got to get all these certain data points that can be far, but as long as you have all those certain data points, when you close in on it, boom, you got everything. It's really cool. Anyways, let's continue.
I have been incredibly impressed with the U.S. Attorney's Office in terms of the leadership under Ms. Foley's predecessors. Joshua Levy was central in making certain decisions about what to disclose to us, where the investigation was going. Again, I don't know what the full parameters of the investigation are, but I can say that I was very, very happy with what they did and what they disclosed, trying to get the truth out previously, and I hope Ms. Foley does the same thing. I'm looking forward to her continuing the investigation. I hope she does.
When you look at the scope of the federal investigation and all the things that were done, you received 3,000 pages from that investigation. Are there other things that might have been done or have been done that you think that should also be turned over or could be turned over?
I don't know. Again, Ted, we're sort of operating a little bit in the blind because I don't know what the full contours of the federal investigation consist of. So it's not like I can say, oh, well, they did this, but I don't have that information. I don't know what the this is. The only thing that I have is the information that they provided to both sides. And then we culled through it to decide, oh, okay, is this relevant to our case? And nearly every page of it was highly, highly relevant material.
One of the things that the federal government did was hire this outside accident reconstruction team who would have no vested interest in the outcome of this case. How important was those two accident reconstructionists coming in saying no way, no how?
I cannot describe the gravity of those two witnesses. First of all, they were unassailable in terms of their credibility and their credentials. There was nobody who testified that was more credentialed to talk about the issues that were attendant to them than those two gentlemen, those two doctors, PhDs. The fact that we didn't hire them, they can't be considered hired guns by the prosecution. The fact that the Commonwealth didn't even know their name, they were completely independent third parties who did not know Karen Read or this case, and they did not know that their assessment was attendant to Karen Read or this case. Central to their testimony, completely credible. I can't describe the gravity of those two witnesses and the impact that it had on the trial and getting to the truth. And what they said echoed everything that we had been learning during the course of our investigation on the defense side, which is that car was not damaged by hitting the human body. It did not hit a person. And John O'Keefe was not injured by being hit by a vehicle. No way, no how. It didn't happen. As one of the witnesses testified, the physics don't lie.
Right.
The science doesn't lie.
Right.
The car did not make contact with John O'Keefe.
There'll be blood spatter. There would have. No, I could go on with this whole accident reconstruction thing. I mean, they can look at a picture and tell how tall somebody is based on a picture. They can tell exactly just accident reconstruction. They can tell, with how long skid marks are on a road, things like that. But they study impact. They know, like, if glass is gonna break a certain way, it's gonna break a certain way if it's hit with blunt force, with a sharp force, they got it. They look hundreds of thousands of tests, and they've come up with a pretty good SOP in those areas. Okay.
He didn't do this.
Karen, when the ARCA information came in that document dump, I guess, what was your emotion kind of reading what they decided?
I didn't really know the details of it until trial because I did not have the same access to those materials that the attorneys did because of the federal protective order. It was another moment, and there's been so many, that I realized, to put it mildly, how underhanded this prosecution is, that a district attorney can be privy to that accident reconstruction report and continue to pursue this case and not call Drs. Wolf and Rentschler.
Right. They have one job to do. To seek the truth. They had this information in front of them. As Karen just said, why wouldn't they call them? They should have called them. Their only job is to seek the truth, not to seek a conviction. And the truth is, the physics don't lie. The car didn't hit John. He wasn't killed by being hit by a car. And they not only did they not seek that truth, they tried to suppress it.
And their version of events was almost, it was laughable. It was laughable. It was illogical. It just did. The body just landed. The phone just landed. A side swipe with no bruises. It's not as if they had qualified, credentialed, advanced educated experts to offer another version of events. They didn't have that, and they chose to ignore that, and they chose to present to the court and to the public in a hearing that those federal materials, 3,000 pages, were 90 to 95% consistent with their theory of the case. The theory of the case is a car accident. The federal materials included a report that said there wasn't a car accident. That's the case. That's 95% of the case. And it was inconsistent. It wasn't just inconsistent. It was diametrically opposed to the Commonwealth's theory of the case or lie of the case.
On the morning of January 29th, 2022,
not ashamed,
you said it was
not afraid
possible
to
you
speak.
might have hit John. How could that
she
even be in the realm if you saw him going into the house?
Because it never crossed my mind that the people we were with, middle-aged adults with children, some of the children were with us that night at the bar. It did not cross my mind for several days that they did this to John, that
They murdered
John
him.
was treated like a piece of garbage. These were women and men, some I knew better than others, that
They're
I-
family. Like family. According
knew
to
to be
Ken.
normal people. And I went through every possibility. He was near the road
Your blue family is your blue family.
and he was dying. And I didn't think he was purposely put in that place.
In your opinion, there have been a few names that have surfaced in this third-party culpability theory. Who do you think, if John was beaten up and attacked in that house, who did it?
We don't know.
We don't know.
We don't know. And it's not for us to know. Somebody other than Karen is responsible for that, for the killing of John.
Murder.
But who it was specifically,
They murdered him.
others know. And they're not talking.
They're not talking.
What is the most important piece of evidence that exists in this case that people could look at and say, hey, there's no way that she could have done this? Is there one thing?
To me, there is. That the only physical evidence connecting me to where John's body was found, which I will not call the crime scene, the only physical evidence, pieces of plastic taillight, were not found until after the state police had possession of that very taillight.
And when you couple that, you're looking for one thing. When you couple that with the testimony of the experts, the third party, absolutely qualified experts, that there was no car accident. The car did not hit John, and John was not hit by a car.
So the taillight pieces, when they were found and when your car was taken, to you, that is the most crucial element of your defense.
It's closely followed by other evidence, but to me, yes.
You've had a private investigator from the start. Is that private investigator still running down tips, and will we see any new revelations at the retrial?
Absolutely. Yeah, we have not slowed down our
I'm just
investigation
excited.
one iota. So I expect, I'm not at liberty to say exactly what might be revealed that's new and different in the second trial, but I expect there will be some new information that comes from our investigation as well.
People send you tips?
All the time. All the time. Yeah, the harder part is not getting the tips. The harder part is separating the wheat from the chaff. What tips are valuable enough to sort of chase down.
Gotta
And-
glean through them. This is super interesting because I haven't seen this ARCA file or this report or anything. So I don't know what this is.
Which just seem like they're, we just chasing our tail. But no, we get tips every single day. The public is very, very interested in getting to the truth of what actually happened to John O'Keefe.
Karen, it's been reported that your defense is running about $5 million. Is that correct? And how do you pay for that?
Give or take a few million. that's a back of the envelope calculation, and it's certainly no pressure put on me in any way by my attorneys. The longer this goes, the harder they work, the more time goes into it.
How do you pay for that?
Right now, I'm paying for everything entirely on the charity of supporters. People I know, former colleagues, people, many thousands of people I don't know. I've
Wow.
liquidated my retirement. I've sold my home, and
Wow.
everything else is from supporters, and it's not a small number.
She's gonna
It's
sue
approaching $750,000.
the entire state
And
of
I hope
Massachusetts after this is
the
over.
supporters and the donors know that this is their defense. They're marshaling this.
That's what I think.
I could early, but it's been 3 years. I've not had income. I had 2 incomes, now I have none. So I'm just incredibly grateful and appreciative. And it was funny when we launched the defense fund, which Alan helped me do logistically through his firm.
I hope she
I was
writes a book.
thanking donors the early days, anything sizable or even small ones, because it's not the nominal amount. It's what people can afford or their intention, and especially from strangers. And I was thanking and people, and now I can't, but I just want them to know. I see them all. My family members, my close friends see them, and other supporters see. Our defense fund page has kind of become its own social media, that people look to see what other parts of this country are people closely following and donating to this defense. So it's keeping us going financially, of course, but also emotionally.
It's important to know, not to interrupt, Ted, but it's important to know that although the attorney time involved is in the multi-million-dollar range, probably $6 million between Mr. Yannetti, myself, Ms. Little, other lawyers who have worked on the case, other individuals, investigators, et cetera. Most of us, all of the lawyers, are not getting paid that. We have not taken that money. We're not going to take that money. That's the value that has amassed of the legal services that's been required to mount this defense. But we're not taking the money because she doesn't have the money. And the reason that David Yannetti is doing this, the reason that I'm doing this, the reason that Liza Little is doing this, the reason that Marty Weinberg and Bob Alessi and others are doing this is because it's the right thing to do. None of us are willing to stand by and watch her get railroaded or steamrolled by the power of the government when she did not do this. So we have all decided as a team, we will be here for as long as it takes, and we will fight as hard as it takes to make sure that the truth comes out.
You said you received $750,000 roughly in donations. Who would we be most surprised to hear who's donated to you?
I wouldn't disclose that to you, but some well-known, maybe one of the most well-known names at my former employer. But as I said, that means just as much to me as someone from Alabama who's given me $25 from her last paycheck.
Is that
Does
you?
that person's name start with an A?
No, he was, it's a he.
She gave her
And
25
just
bucks.
a little more directly involved
That's just
in
good.
it.
That's just good reporting. He's just going to keep asking until,
Yeah.
until he figures it out.
Abby certainly has the money.
I wish, Ted, I wish. And that's not for lack of trying on my part.
The largest group of people who've donated to you are your
I'm totally mesmerized by this guy's crooked ass nose. I don't know about you guys, but I am. Okay.
former coworkers.
Not in volume of donors, but in proportion of the actual amount donated. Yeah, about half has come from former colleagues to whom I am incredibly grateful. And it's kind of taken the sting out of no longer being a part of that world and seeing them every day and doing what I love to do, that I'm still connected, and it's a different life that I have now and a different purpose, and they're contributing to it.
And it's interesting, the perception that she's got this multi-million dollar defense and this juggernaut defense. It's just not correct. It's not accurate. Yes, she has a very valuable defense working on her behalf, but the money that the donors and the public are providing, the money that that's being given to the defense fund is paying for the investigators, the expert witnesses, travel for the experts, hotels for the people are flying in from all over the country, and we have to account for that, a massive amount of logistics, getting people here so that they can testify, getting people here so that they can do the research. If we need to use research attorneys or other staff, that's what that's paying for. It's not paying for legal fees. None of us are taking legal fees.
For the retrial, you're facing a new special prosecutor. Who would you rather face? Is it Adam Lally, who we saw in the first trial, or is it Hank Brennan?
I don't care who I face.
She don't care because why do they gotta switch hit? What's their deal?
I have the truth. I have the best attorneys that money is not paying for. Do your worst.
What was your take on how the DA's office performed at the first trial?
How they performed, it felt like they just wore the jury down. It felt like a lot of repetition. I don't think the jurors saw the lack of injuries to John's body or his right arm for, I want to say it was week 5, but maybe it just felt like week 5 and it was week 3. They were clearly, and I understand why, belaboring insignificant points and barely touching on the biggest parts of the evidence.
Questions that they couldn't answer. They just decided the prosecution had a design. They were just going to
confuse everybody.
Try the case by volume instead of by validity.
Put it all out there.
Put everything out there, and the inconvenient facts that show that John O'Keefe was not killed by Karen Read would just get buried somewhere in the middle. Our job was to tease that out, which we did. Doesn't matter if they try to do it again. We'll do the same thing. Our job is to make sure that the truth gets out there.
I think I asked your parents the same question. If you're framed, someone's got to run that, direct that. Who is that person?
I think you know who that person is.
Duh.
I think there's people who are enabling, and there's people who are actually
that one guy, the boom,
moving pieces.
But is your theory that it's people inside that house, 34 Fairview, who sort of called the shots from the beginning, or someone high up in law enforcement?
I don't know the interconnections, the interpersonal relationships among these people. I have a strong personal opinion that what has motivated this persecution of me is power. There were familiarities among players that never should have happened. There's a sleeve of homicide in the Norfolk DA's office, as there is in the other counties of Massachusetts. And yet the person assigned to investigate this case, ostensibly investigate this case, lives a mile down the street from the crime scene. But I believe the players with the most influence are motivated more by power and playing God. And they're trying to play God with my life.
Not to protect people.
Okay. So I see that this just I'm in shock at the amount of corruption that I'm seeing just in the first few days of this trial. Just from what and then the rumors and in the chats and stuff. I'm like, what? That didn't really happen. They're like, oh yeah, in the first trial, this. I'm like, what? And I've been trying to not look at anything from the first trial. I think I might have looked at one thing, and I think it was someone's testimony. It was part of Jen's testimony because I'm like, what's this broad look like? Everybody said, oh my God. I've got a whole profile on this broad on my brain, in my head about this Jen. Okay. Jen likes to play chess, I think. likes to play games. She's a storyteller, let me tell you. She's very theatrical, but her face don't move. As traumatizing as this event was, and she keeps repeating that, she didn't cry once. Nah, I couldn't tell. But it was pretty traumatizing, so much to the fact she's got to talk about it every day. I would almost ask her, have you shed any actual tears over this? I wonder if they would be allowed to ask that question. That'd be funny. Anyways,
People are being protected. I don't know if the motivation was actually to protect those people, but it's a byproduct of it. I mean, there are names, and we know those names that were hidden from me. I only knew who was in that house from the rumor mill, from people I knew in Canton, and it ended up becoming true once we pushed and filed motions and flew the team in. And 2 years later, a year and a half later, we're getting police reports of names of people that were in that house that I did not know about, or they were trying to make sure I didn't know about early in 2022.
And you can't have one without the other. You can't have a motivation to put the case on Karen Read without also being motivated to protect yourself or to protect others that are with you. It would take a real investigation, a true investigation by their own folks to reveal who is part of this. Is there one person that's behind it? I don't think so.
by their
My
own
personal
folks?
opinion.
Come on.
I think it's a combination of folks.
Okay, first of all, by their own folks, an investigation by their own folks. They're all corrupt. What are you talking about?
But I don't think that we're ever going to see that true investigation because the people that are in power don't want the truth.
But isn't that what the
They
feds
know
do?
the truth. Or
That's
they do.
us.
Actually, you know what? The rule in law enforcement is don't ask a question that you don't want to hear the answer to. Okay? Remember that. Don't ever ask a question that you don't want to hear the answer to. So
Ostensibly what the feds did and are continuing to do. I don't know the full contour of what the federal investigation is revealing, but I can certainly say that, to Karen's point, there were people that were never disclosed to us in any reports being in that home that weren't revealed until the federal investigators got involved and some folks started getting cornered. And they realized, oh, hang on, I can't suppress this anymore. There are reasons why I have to now reveal this truth. And then ultimately it was revealed. Why is that? Why were folks being hidden from us in police reports, et cetera, as being in the house, as being pertinent to this investigation?
why wasn't the house searched? Why wasn't? Oh, you guys, I can't. Why didn't the homeowner come out? Why wasn't the homeowner questioned? What? I mean, for what it sounds like, it wasn't even questioned. What?
They didn't do anything. Who the hell cares?
Do we know who all those people are now?
Now
Were they
we
all
do.
part of the first
We
trial?
think we do.
Yeah, at least we think we do.
And by the way, Ted, I think it's probably half of the people that were in 34 Fairview, half of what we think the total number is, were interviewed for the first time with their defense attorneys, with their criminal defense attorneys. What a luxury. What a luxury. Some were interviewed in the first week of this case.
You know, where are the recordings of all of the interviews involved in this case? I would love to hear them.
The week following John's murder, in their attorneys' homes. Others were interviewed the fall of 2023 in their defense attorneys' offices. Convenient, and what a luxury.
And I've never seen that before either. We're talking earlier about things that are anomalous, an anomaly about this case. I've never seen that before, where like the entire panoply
Unheard of.
of eyewitnesses, supposedly eyewitnesses for the government, they'll lawyer up immediately. They're all interviewed with lawyers sitting there. Why? If you're just telling the truth, what do you need to lawyer up for?
Do you think it's just because of the exposure of this case, though?
I don't think so.
No.
I don't think so. I think it's self-preservation.
Yes, it is.
Will you bring any new witnesses to the retrial? Will we see anyone new at the retrial from your side?
I think a lot of that depends on what we get from the Commonwealth. We're still waiting to get the full bucket of information that the Commonwealth is amassing for the second trial. But as soon as they let us know what their witness list looks like, then that will dictate in no small part what our witness list is going to look like. But I fully expect that there will be
They're in
some
the
new witnesses.
bullpen.
Yeah, we're not waiting on that. We're pretty good at figuring out that we can telegraph their punches. So we have not been sitting on our hands. I can put it that way. And will you see new faces? Yes, I expect you will.
We're 3 years removed from what happened, and you said that you're still receiving important evidence from the state. Why wouldn't have that been turned over for the first trial?
Because it's exculpatory.
That's the question we've been asking. Why wasn't this turned over during the first trial? And you probably will see that question posed in a formal motion that we will have before the court, before the trial starts. Because that's the right question to ask. Why the hell? You've been prosecuting this case for 3 years. We should have had every scrap of information available to you in our possession before the first trial. We have now learned that did not happen.
Karen, can you give me an example of something that you haven't?
Nope.
Well,
You hear about this
The
stuff?
CPD video was just publicized. It's in a
Yeah,
public motion.
yeah, this isn't the place to talk about it. We're about to have a hearing on it. So I'd rather just
This isn't going to
defer that.
air though till after.
But she'll probably be not deciding.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, exactly. She might not decide it for weeks or months. So I'd rather defer that question.
You've asked the state's highest court to intervene and essentially dismiss the murder charge. How closely do you follow the decisions that come out every day from that court?
We pretty much take the pulse of that docket every day. We're very interested. We think that we have nothing but the deepest respect for the SJC. One of the beauties of the appellate court process is that the more elevated the courts go, the less associated they are with sort of the local issues that are attendant to a particular prosecution, a particular courtroom, a particular subject matter.
However,
So
if they
they're
have
by
a judge in
design
that court,
supposed to be elevated to a
extruded.
point where they can just look at something antiseptically, look at it legally and factually, and make a decision. We're looking very, very forward to the SJC reviewing, ultimately making a decision about, and then coming out with a holding concerning the acquittal of Karen on count 1 and count 3, the murder charge and the leaving the scene with injury charge. And when they do come out with that holding, my hope is that it's in our favor. It should be in our favor. We deeply believe legally that it will be in Karen's favor, and that will change the complexion of the second trial significantly.
Karen, aside from the DA's office dropping the charges against you, which is not going to happen, is the SJC decision your best hope?
If the SJC rules in our favor, that'd be a big win. But day to day, Ted, we don't plan on that. Hope for the best, expect the worst. One benefit to the SJC, to the appeal, to the affidavits submitted on behalf of the jurors that reached out to Alan and David, is it will hold a magnifying glass over the verdict, over the governing of the jurors, the logistics of it. So that's something we weren't expecting at the first trial. Things that were going on with the jury. We had issues with the verdict slip at the 11th hour. So this has helped us sort that out in advance of the second trial. So it has served a purpose, even if it's not the best outcome with the SJC.
So the jurors that came forward said that they found you not guilty on second-degree murder, but they were stuck on manslaughter. Why is that? Why do you think that there were people in that box that said, no, we believe Karen struck John?
Actually, I believe, and part of this is a little guesswork and filling in blanks, But the jurors that came forward indicated that they weren't actually even stuck on manslaughter. They were stuck on a subordinate charge beneath manslaughter, which means by definition, they were instructed you have to find not guilty on manslaughter to even go to a subordinate charge. So as it stands, as we sit here today, the information that we have is that she was acquitted on count 1, acquitted on count 3, acquitted on the upper charge of count 2, and they were stuck on something lesser like a DUI or DUI with injury or something like that.
But that would still mean that there were people in that box who thought Karen hit John.
I think that I don't think so, Ted. I don't believe that that's true. I believe that there were people, I think that we dispatched that notion in trial to the nth degree. I don't believe that there were actually jurors in the box who believed that the Commonwealth had proved beyond any and all reasonable doubt that she struck John with her car. I think what they thought was there is a tragic situation, a tragic outcome. A man lost his life, and that is tragic. It's deeply tragic for John, his family. And that there was drinking going on, drinking by Brian Albert, drinking by Brian Higgins, drinking.
I can't believe how Jen has pulled in John's mother. She's like pulled in everybody against Karen. Like, she's really done a lot of setup for this. It's very interesting. You know she's lying. I mean, you can tell there's something she's not saying. But I think that she may have figured it out after the fact, and she's trying to keep her mouth shut, but she's such a talker. And everybody's hanging on the fact that Jen's a big mouth. And waiting for her to screw it all up. That's what I think. That's what I think's going on with her friends and family, with Jen's friends and family. Just saying.
By Chris Albert, everybody, including Karen Reed. And she's the one on trial. Given the fact that there was drinking going on and someone lost their life, I think that there were certain people on the jury who just decided, I don't want to say not guilty across the board. Let's find something lesser to see if we can do something to close that loop for John O'Keefe. I don't think it had really intellectually anything to do with Karen Reed actually striking John O'Keefe.
Karen, would you like to see this case tried somewhere else? Moved out of Norfolk County, moved out of Massachusetts?
I'm not afraid of this case being tried in Norfolk County. I'm agnostic.
I would be.
In terms of picking a jury for the next trial. I mean, it was a challenge the first time around. How the heck do you do it this time?
We're not looking for jurors that haven't heard about the case. That's going to be impossible. We're looking for jurors that haven't formed an opinion about the case, which is possible. And they may have, I know there are people in the jury pool that have maybe heard about the case tangentially or know my face or passed by it on the dial, but don't really know the evidence. I'm optimistic that those people exist and they'll hear the evidence and they'll see the truth. But I believe people in Norfolk County, I've seen it, and I'm not from Norfolk County. I didn't live there. I wasn't raised there, but they're smart and savvy and they're passionate. And when they do hear about the case, most of my supporters, I would guess, are from Norfolk County proportionately. And they're intelligent. They see this for what it is.
Most of her supporters are from that county. What does that tell you guys? Yeah, that corrupt system in whatever county it is.
By following the evidence really closely. So I just need jurors that'll do that. I haven't done it yet, but we'll be willing to do that.
You've spoken at length about this case and the circumstances that have happened. Why not take a stand?
I am not saying that I'm not taking the stand. I felt confident in our case, in our defense, because a lot of our case was our cross-examination of these witnesses. And we made a game time decision, and I take the advice of my attorneys, but I'm not afraid of taking the stand. And I'm clearly not afraid of speaking, but I will not assign any genuine, truthful intentions to the prosecution. And I've already seen signs they're playing hardball. So we'll weigh the pros and cons, and we'll make another second game time decision.
Do you think that this is personal for the DA's office, that they want a conviction more than probably any conviction they've ever gotten before?
Yes.
And there are certainly people involved with prosecution who want exactly that. I would venture to say there's not a single person in the Commonwealth at the prosecution level. I don't think there's a single person at the investigative level with the law enforcement who actually believes in their heart that they can prove this case against Karen beyond any and all reasonable doubt. I don't think that there's a soul at the prosecution
and
that or
if
involved
you,
with the prosecution that
you know
believes
what?
that. Not a soul.
You find me that person, and I'd like them to explain themselves. Find me one.
I believe this
Not
is
gonna
more a trial of a vendetta, of personal animus, of trying to save face. I don't think anybody there, honestly, put him down, strap him to a lie detector. Do you think you can prove this case beyond any reasonable doubt that Karen Read did this? Nope, I don't think so. So yeah, I think there's a lot of personal interest and personal animus that has gotten in the way of the prosecution and the Commonwealth doing their duty, their sworn duty, not to prosecute someone unless they believe they can do so to a jury, an objective jury of her peers, beyond a reasonable doubt. I don't think any one of them think that.
Karen, is it your understanding that nobody in the Norfolk DA's office would try this case, and that's why they went to Hank Brennan?
We've heard rumors to that effect, and it was from some of the same people that told us Hank Brennan was being recruited within weeks of the mistrial. So I lend some credence to those rumors, but they're just rumors. And also, no one in the DA's office is trying this case for the retrial.
This case has become your identity. Is that for the rest of your life, or will one day you just want to put it all behind you?
I don't think I can, even if I wanted to, and I'm okay with that. It's more important, this fight, than anything I've done by a wide margin. And it's made me realize that this happens all the time. And I'm just fortunate enough to be able to fight back. But what's happened to me has happened too easily, too swiftly, with seemingly no checks and balances other than the ones we can bring.
Boy, it really does make you think, like, how many people have they done this to? This group? How many people? Now, you don't understand. When you are in law enforcement or when you're in a position of power, like these people that are involved, corruption is so easy to attain with the pen. You know, your pen, what you write as an official becomes a legal document. So everything, every note, every recording, every report, everything, every keystroke is a legal, it becomes a legal timestamp document piece. It basically, that's how it is evidence. It's true. It's interesting, but it's the truth. And when you have that kind of power, you know, just a simple word of using "and" instead of "or," it makes all the difference in the world, because you're testifying that this statement is true and correct. You may misspeak, but you have to, you know, I mean, just goes on.
But this can't be the first. It can't be the first time. And it's 2025 in
No.
Massachusetts, and it's happening
Definitely
right
not.
before everyone's eyes. It's hiding in plain sight. So this is a problem that I
Yeah.
hope I'm here to address. And even if I'm not, it will be addressed. We're doing it right now. Regardless of the outcome, which will be an acquittal, eyes have been opened. That's why Alan and I are sitting here, is there's interest, and people are evaluating their law enforcement and their elected officials and their district attorneys with a more critical eye than they were before. And that's a bigger impact and a purpose that I could have, even if it's been very, very difficult for me and the people that are closest to me.
Something that the prosecution has recently been focused on were calls you made to your mother overnight. What were those calls about?
Anyone who spent any time with me throughout my life knows I'm incredibly close to my parents. And I was very troubled, to put it, you've heard the voicemails. It was a blizzard. There were young children unattended. And John, uncharacteristically, when I say uncharacteristically, I mean, he's never.
Well, how old were the kids at this time? I think they were 10 and 14 or something. I think. Yeah.
Done that before at that hour in those conditions. And I was panicked. I was torn between, did something go wrong, or is he purposely ignoring me and taking advantage of me to go home to the kids while he stay out drinking? And as I do, and do I wish I did it less? Yes, but now I need her more than ever. As I normally would do, I'd reach out to my mother for, what do you think's happening? And I, reach out to them every day now that night just, it's like I never woke up from it. So
I think the fact that the prosecution seems to be focusing on those calls and trying to wrap Karen's parents into this just shows a level of desperation that shows or suggests that the prosecution understands how thin, paper thin, chiffon thin their case is. They can't prove this case, and so they're just sort of desperately looking to scattershot other information to make innuendo about why would she call her mother. Like she calls her parents all the time. There's no there. Doesn't mean that the prosecution is going to look and make suggestions about it, but it's a desperate ploy, and there's nothing there.
What would surprise me or the people watching this about something that's transpired over the last 3 years?
I don't think so. I think one of the things that we've tried to do on the defense team from the beginning is pull that veil back, pull the curtain back, and show all the warts and blemishes of the Massachusetts State Police, the Canton Police Department, the investigative techniques that they used or didn't use, the Commonwealth's prosecution of a case like this. We wanted everybody to see everything.
Right.
And we were pretty successful in that in terms of the presentation in front of the first jury. We intend to do it again.
The investigative techniques that they didn't use, like separate freaking witnesses, some pretty basic 101 stuff.
In front of the second jury. So the thing that's most shocking is the full universe of information that now the community has in front of it. We have gotten call after call after call, email after email, text after text from community members who don't know us, certainly don't know me. I'm from California, saying this kind of thing happened to my family. This kind of thing happened to me. This kind of thing happened to my son. This kind of thing happened to my father, my mother. And nobody would ever look at it. Nobody would believe us. Nobody would listen. Thank God you folks have found the platform to show what actually is happening in our community. That's what has been most surprising. And it's there for everybody to see.
What is your relationship with Adam Rowley and Hank Brennan? Is it cordial?
There's no relationship.
I mean, you have to deal with them back and forth.
Not her.
Not me.
Okay. Your relationship with Hank Brennan?
Completely professional.
Okay.
Cordial, civil, professional. And that's all I expect. If he's going to prosecute this case, the only thing I expect from him is professionalism, which he has given me. It doesn't get, at least with me and with David and with Liza, it doesn't get personal. We deal with what we need to deal with in the courtroom.
Was that the same way with Adam Rowley?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, by and large. I disagree vehemently, vigorously with their prosecution of this case. They know that. I haven't made that, that is out there. But in terms of just day-to-day interaction, I expect the highest level of professionalism from them, and they get it from us.
It's business.
It's business.
State police have had people follow your drivers?
Yep. Our drivers have been approached by the state police. They're no longer some are no longer my drivers because of that. I've had very close friends, had their cell phone records subpoenaed for an indictment that never happened. There's a lot of attempts to glean more about our team by the state police. There's probably, I wouldn't put it past them to some things going on as I'm sitting here.
Have you ever been followed?
I don't know. My eyes are akimbo all the time. I look at law enforcement differently, more warily. I don't know that I'm being followed. I've been tracked. I mean, I've been tracked on flights. I've been tracked when I've stayed in hotels. This is in.
How do you know you're being tracked?
I know from affidavits from the state police at the Norfolk DA's office when they were investigating me last year. It was with my closest friend trying to get away from Massachusetts. And little did I know at the time, I learned about it afterwards, that they knew what flight I was on. They knew when I landed. They knew when I came back. And it's disturbing. It's invasive and it's desperate.
Getting back to sort of just distilling, what is the one thing in this case that you believe proves your innocence?
John's body,
Yeah.
no bruise, 6,000-pound full-size SUV, not a bruise on his body, not a fracture below his head.
The medical examiner did not rule his death a homicide, correct?
Correct.
Was it undetermined?
Yes.
And that doesn't get revisited, correct?
Oh, good luck.
Yeah.
Good luck trying to revisit that. I don't think it'll be revisited by her. I mean, she came to the decision she came to the decision of. So I don't think she's not gonna. And if she does deviate from that decision, she's gonna have to answer for that, and that will be an incredibly uncomfortable situation. I don't think that will happen. But it's very telling that their own best expert, as it pertains to the physical evidence surrounding John and John's injuries, did not rule this a homicide, and they have the burden of proof. That's one of the galling factors in this entire thing. Is the Commonwealth knows that their own expert or experts will not support their prosecution of Karen. Then dismiss the case. Do the right thing. Just do the right thing. And it's shocking that they won't.
John's niece and nephew, who he was taking care of, essentially testified against you in the trial. How hard was that?
I knew that was coming because I read what they testified to in the initial indictment almost 3 years ago. And they're part of a well that was poisoned almost as soon.
Wait, who tested it? Wait, what?
Own expert or experts will not support their prosecution of Karen. Then dismiss the case. Do the right thing. Just do the right thing. And it's shocking that they won't.
John's niece and nephew, who he was taking care of, essentially testified against you in the trial. How hard was that?
I knew that was coming because I read what they testified to in the initial indictment almost 3 years ago. And they're part of a well that was poisoned almost as soon as he died. And they were 3 years younger then, and impressionable and surrounded by adults that care for them and provide for them. And I was no longer one of those adults.
And someday,
And it's
Listen.
unfortunate. And
one day, those kids will watch and they'll figure this case out, and they'll know that the very people that surrounded them were the very people that killed their dad. Well, uncle.
I hope and wish for the best for them, but I've long come to terms with what's happened to the children.
Has Paul O'Keefe ever made any statements to you walking by or anything?
He sends me, he hasn't in a while, but he's attempted to send me Facebook messages. It's ironic because there's a stay away order, and yet I hear, they've attempted to send me messages, and as soon as I see the name comes up, I hear, they've attempted to in a while, but he's attempted to send me. I was no longer one of those adults, and it's unfortunate, and I hope and wish for the best for them, but I've long come to terms with what's happened to the children.
Has Paul O'Keefe ever made any statements to you walking by or anything?
He sends me, he hasn't in a while, but he's attempted to send me Facebook messages. It's ironic because there's a stay away order, and yet I hear, they've attempted to send me messages, and as soon as I see the name comes up, I just delete it. I'm not interested in anything he has to say to me.
What do you think might be the tenor of those messages?
Negative, volatile. I mean, there was some volatility in court, and I think I'd attribute the same cause to Paul's emotions as I would to the children's.
Can you feel him staring at you?
I honestly don't even know he's there anymore. I mean, I'm aware that his immediate family's in the courtroom, but there's days, we come home from hearings or we came home from court, and someone close to me will say, "Was that so-and-so on the O'Keefe side?" And I said, I honestly, I almost look through them at this point. I know they're there, and my family would be there. My family is there, but the O'Keefe's presence, Paul sitting there, doesn't impact me. It doesn't bother me. That's John's brother. But I couldn't tell you from one day to the next what color shirt he was wearing.
You know what? At this point, I'm sure that John's brother knows. I'm sure he knows. I'm sure his mother's figuring it out too. And they're going to feel really bad if they accuse this lady when she's not even the lady. You can't, I mean, oh man, she's got to be very convincing liar. I'm sorry, but I believe her.
If you were framed, who's calling the shots? There's so many levels there, right? There's the troopers on the ground, there's the prosecutors, there's the DA.
That's the problem. This is just us talking,
Who
but
is
that's the problem of
calling
answering
that-
that question or trying to narrow that question. And she can answer it whichever way she wants to, but it can't be one. It's not one person. It's not. It's just not. There's not a singular tip of the spear.
Do you
There
want
are
to?
decisions.
I mean, if that's the how
That's
you,
it's my opinion.
yeah.
Just,
I want to hear you. Obviously,
I just want to add to that. I mean, I already answered it very
Yeah.
pointedly, but there's a garbage in, garbage out problem that forensic scientists or civilians or even local law enforcement that's assisting the investigators, their output and their determinations are only as good as what they're given, what they're testing, what they're measuring, what they're photographing. So I don't believe it's necessarily 40 different people, but I think it's garbage in, garbage out.
5, 10 years from now, where is Karen Read? What is she doing?
I don't know what I'll be doing,
Writing
but I'll be
a
busy,
book.
whatever I'm doing. And I care and I think
Directing
more
a
about
movie.
whom will I be with. And God willing, it's my parents
Should be-
and the people.
Hey. Made for TV. I mean, I'm waiting to see what happens in the end, what are they gonna name it? Who killed J.O., not J.R., remember? Who killed J.R.? Who killed J.O.? Huh?
People who've seen me through this, and I hope to meet more of the people that are helping to pull our team through.
Do you have the capacity to find someone new one day, or has that all just been destroyed by all of this?
No, it's not destroyed. I didn't do anything wrong. and I cared for someone and he cared for me, and it ended tragically. And tragic things happen to relationships every day, to 67 relationships are exponential this morning or last night. So I will not be permanently broken. I'm not broken temporarily. I've just been sidelined from what I thought I was doing on this planet, and it wasn't what I thought I was supposed to be doing. But there's been no irreparable damage to me or what I want out of life or what I want to make me happy.
Did you always know that you had this strength?
I could not have known that I could deal with what I'm dealing with, but I've never been deterred by anything in my life. And I have had challenges, not quite as big as this, but health challenges that severely incapacitated me and ruined my physical quality of life. This is more of a mental obstacle now, but I'm invigorated by challenges. It makes me feel stronger to overcome things. And I think part of the reason I can adapt to this new normal I'm in is because I've had to do it before. And I've been strengthened by the events of my life.
You know, that's totally going to pose the question. Wait, you've been accused of murder before? No, guys.
Me to 2022.
The hundreds of thousands of people who might be watching this, what would you like to say to them?
Do you think that that's why he holds his face like this, so that people won't notice that his nose is as crooked as it is at his eyes? It's crooked.
Thank you to the vast majority of them. And like I've said earlier, only people very close to me knew the truth for a very long time.
Just accept yourself for who you are. We don't care if your nose is crooked, okay? You're making it more apparent by doing that. Just saying.
Living day to day without a job, without anything to really focus on but this case, and know that even my neighbors who I could see out my window didn't really know the circumstances. And to have hundreds of thousands hear this and be enlightened is just a massive relief. And the support that people come up to me, to my family. Alan and I had a meal paid for in the North End, and it was, I don't know the last time I've done anything but tip a waiter. And that generosity, that's all helping fuel this. It helps me spiritually, and it helps me financially, and I want to thank the vast majority of those people.
Wow. Well, that's it, folks. I mean, holy freaking moly with that. You know, I'm kind of like in shock that all of that. Let me close that tab, that way it'll go out. And I think I'm almost done here. I got one little 2-minute video I wanted to see too. Let me pull it up here. Some missing Ring camera footage. What's this? Look, I don't know nothing about nothing. Woo! Yeah, this broad. Oh, you guys! No way. Okay, well, what's this? What does this guy got to say? Hold on. I haven't seen this. What's this about?
So one of the mysteries that still remains about this case is missing Ring videos from John O'Keefe's home.
There's Ring camera video from 11:30 the night before, on the 28th, when Michael Camerano comes to the house to pick up his daughter. And there's Ring camera video the next time at 5:07 a.m. when Karen Reed is leaving. If you do natural math, there's a point in time when Karen Reed comes home and puts her car in the garage. Puts her car in the garage, comes home, and there's a point in time to natural math time at 5:07 a.m. when Karen Reed is leaving. If you do natural math,
is that the taillight that's broken here? Is that what they're saying? I hope not. I hope not. Let's do it one more time. Maybe not. Maybe
leaving.
Is that it? Maybe that's just not.
If you do natural
No,
math,
one more time.
and when Karen Reed is leaving. If you do natural,
Hold on. I gotta see that one more time.
Reed is leaving.
Boom.
If you do,
Oh, maybe not. Is that not?
if you do,
Well, that didn't look right. Maybe it didn't move.
if you
Okay.
do,
It looked like it did. Hey, look. Maybe
natural math, there's a point in time when Karen Reed comes home and puts her car in the garage in between those two time periods, but there's no Ring camera footage of that.
We know the Ring video had to be deleted because at 12:41, I leave a voicemail to John where you can clearly hear me pull into John's garage. You can hear my car sensors beeping as I come close to the sides of the garage door. Beep, 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 beep. And then you hear the car go off, and then you hear the sled ding, ding, ding as I open the door, shut the door. I had high heels on that night. You hear me walk in, in through the stairs up into the kitchen, shut the door, and you hear me walk into the kitchen. It's like a full minute long. That's at 12:41. But the Ring video of me arriving home is mysteriously missing. The prosecution is accusing me of deleting the Ring, and we're accusing them.
The O'Keefe family believes that when they did this was when Karen got home from the hospital with her dad.
There was certainly some evidence in this trial that Karen Reed got home and had gone up to John O'Keefe's bedroom.
And if you know, about how long were they in the upstairs area of the house?
I would say 10 to 15 minutes.
Karen Reed had access to the computer in the bedroom. So there's a possibility or an inference that she could have deleted Ring footage that she didn't believe was favorable to her.
Hey, did you test the
So this would have been the time that Miss Reed, the defendant, arrived
What
with
are you
her
talking
family
about?
from the hospital as well?
Correct.
Why am I deleting these videos? If anything, I mean, I want the video when I arrive home to show that my taillight's intact. I don't know that it would have captured it, but it could have. They wouldn't want that video in because it would show my taillights intact. So who has a greater incentive to delete the video?
Who else had access? Who had John's passwords and access to that? All right. So I guess is the next question. What was deleted right before that? 12:41. When was it deleted? Very interesting. You're welcome, Salt Cubes. Salt Cubes. I like that. That's a cute name. Anyways, you know what, guys? I might sit here and watch more of this. I don't know. I didn't even know that there was a missing Ring camera. Look, I don't know. These guys. Oh my god. Hold on, wait. Let's go to the short. Great.
While you were at the scene, after Miss Reed had been giving CPR, Sean Good interviewed you, correct?
I don't remember a formal interview with Sean Good.
Do you remember talking to him?
When he arrived at the scene, I do remember briefly talking to him after all three of us gave John CPR.
And he asked you certain questions.
So she just can't answer a yes or no question. This broad, I couldn't even stand watching it. Okay, so let's move on. I want to know. All right, here's the other question I got. Is what What were these texts? What were the texts between Karen and Brian? That's what I want to know.
So again, I'm in the blue bubbles. Did you try those Smirnoff screwdrivers? I stopped at the Hilly for one last night. I said, haha, how did you get my digits? Defendant responded, the Melissa and Lito show. I said, haha, I thought you creeped John's phone. I said, haha, again. Defendant responded, no way. I was the last person in Greater Canton who didn't have your number. I think even Kerry has it. I responded, what, with a bunch of question marks? I said, I just don't give my personal number out to anyone. How would Kerry have my number with a bunch of question mark? And the defense.
How long does this go on? What hell? What's the date on this? Do it. What?
And responded, Melissa had it.
Now, as far as in those communications, the reference the defendant makes to the Melissa and Lito show, do you know what that means?
The two individuals that I also know from the hillside.
And the Kerry person that she refers to, do you know who that is?
I believe that's Kerry Curran, Chris Curran's wife.
You started the first. Oh my! Wow. This is yeah.
Now, if I could direct your attention to page 9.
What if they're all swingers? That
And
would
it's going to point to that page.
explain a lot. That would explain a lot.
And again, sir, if you could read from page 9 as far as that conversation goes and just indicates whom is speaking at different points.
Okay, so the defendant said, I'd prefer a weed whacker. I responded, that's the thing about nicknames. Defendant said, we were tossing around the idea of a short vacay with the current show, wanted to see if you were game. I responded, you don't have a say. And I believe I was referring to nicknames. And I said, vacation where? Defendant responded, I know. They need to happen organically. I'm the queen of nicknames. Was just going to rent a beach house in, I believe it was supposed to say Fort Lauderdale. It's abbreviated. Something quick and easy. I said, Defendant responded, I'm the queen of vacays too. Always a good time. I responded, I'm going to Nashville next month, 19 to 21st, for a benefit. One of our guys got shot in the head. You guys should come.
And as far as either one of those trips that you were discussing, do you recall any further discussion or any going on any of those trips?
Well, I mean, I definitely went to Nashville for that benefit for one of my coworkers. There may have been more conversation about the Florida trip, but I can't specifically recall it.
Now, sir, if I could direct your attention to page 16, and Ms. Gilman, if I could have that. And this is on that same date of January 13th, is that correct?
Okay.
I believe so. The date's not at the top here, but I believe it is.
And again, sir, if you could read from that page of communication as far as who was speaking and what was said.
So there's a photograph of somebody with a weed whacker. The defendant said, no, you're not a creep. I said, nope. She said, you're kind of a loner, which I used to be. I responded, no, not really. I have a ton of buddies, but I only let a handful of friends in that I'm tight with. So you think you got me figured out? And then I typed circle of trust in quotes.
And sir, if I could direct your attention to the next page, number 17.
Underneath your little Gary Nerd's.
And Ms. Gilman, if I could have that. And again, sir, if you could read from page 17 as far as what is said and who is talking.
So the defendant said, yeah, I said loner, not loser. I assume you know a lot of people, PPL, people abbreviated. You never really can figure anyone out completely. Your dad died when you were young. And I responded, he died in March of 2020. I'm so not a loser. You won't figure me out. LOL. Defendant responded, no one is a loser. I just didn't mean loner to imply friendless. I'm sorry that that's recent. It wasn't COVID, was it? I responded, cancer. Defendant responded, I know you date girls who don't lock the house behind them, and you are private and observant. I'm sorry, what kind? I responded, long brain, kidney, and pelvis. How do you know all these things? LOL.
Oh I'd like to turn your attention to the next page, 18. And again, sir, if you could read from that.
In the blue bubbles is me. I said, you're funny. Defendant responded, yikes. Wow, that's rough. Jesus, I'm sorry.
Page 102.
I don't care. Let's go on. Anybody got highlights? Tell me the highlights.
Defendant said, I'm assuming point is that there's a difference, and we have no intention of ever getting married. The point of dating is not to get tied down. If you're not confident, you should be, in my mind anyway. The first two, but I don't care too much about the other girl. I responded, okay, so he is cool with you dating other people, ? Defendant responded, and I'm not happy per se, just realistic that there's cracks and it's far from perfect. I doubt it. If he's seeing someone else, I wouldn't want to know either way. He probably feels the same way, and you probably feel that way about whoever you hook up with. I think that's normal. I responded, okay. Defendant said, you don't agree with me? ?
If I could direct your attention to page 107.
This is
Ask you from that, sir.
Go on.
Defendant said, at a bar, ? I responded, I wasn't suggesting anytime soon. I know you're with your friend. I meant my house.
Come on, man. This guy.
Probably after 8. Defendant said probably after 8. I responded, okay, if you don't wanna, that's fine, no pressure. Defendant responded, I will a drink. It looks like I tabbed the bubble with a question mark. I then said, what do you drink? ? Are you out now? ? Defendant responded, sorry, I'll drink whiskey if that's what you're having. I responded, haha, send me a pic of you two.
Now, you had testified earlier about some occasion prior to the 28th when the defendant had come over your house in West Roxbury, correct?
Yes.
This page that you just read, as well as some of these successive pages, after that, is that sort of arranging for that to occur after she goes out or leaves from a friend out in Boston?
I believe she was out with a friend that night in Boston, a female friend, yes.
And that evening when she came over your house, about how long was she there?
Not long.
And so what happened when she arrived, or what, if anything, did the two of you talk?
It was kind of more of this. It was a kind of wasn't an interrogation. It was a face-to-face version of trying to suss out and vet, like, what is this all about? Again, I mean, I'm not proud of these text messages. It is what it is. I'll take responsibility for them. But, John was a friend at the same time. And I certainly wasn't, if they were at the end of the relationship, they were at the end of the relationship. But I wasn't going to have somebody utilize me and weaponize me against somebody that I liked. And it was just a weird experience. It was, I don't even think either one of us finished a drink. It was, like I said, it was this type of like, what is this all about? And then she left. I think I might have asked her to text me when she got in, so I knew she got home.
Now, that evening or at any other points, in your friendship or your relationship, whatever, however you want to term it, was there any other sort of intimate contact beyond what you described occurring as she walked you out that night you were over at Mr. O'Keefe's house for the papers?
Are you asking if she ever kissed me again?
I'm asking if there was any kissing, any sexual relationship, anything at all between yourself and the defendant?
Absolutely not. In referring to my residence when she stopped by, I was very uncomfortable, and it was just an uncomfortable situation. Just a weird vibe. That's the best I can describe it.
And lastly, sir, lastly as it applies to this, turning your attention to the last page, number 118. And there's a couple different dates from the middle to the bottom of the page. Is that correct?
There is.
If I could ask you to start reading from, where it says Sunday, January 23rd, 9:40 p.m.
Defendant, so Sunday, January 23rd at 9:40 p.m., defendant texted me, phone works, and then an emoji with arrows going like both ways. And I responded, thought you were all set, ? Defendant said, with talking, ? No. I said, are you sure? And she didn't respond, and I believe I said, that was it for that, the 23rd, I'm sorry.
So then the next date that any text communication was sent between the two of you would have been Friday, 11:32 p.m. Is that correct?
That's correct. That would have been when we were at the waterfall.
And again, what does the text say there?
Well.
That's from you to her. Is that correct?
Yes.
And then the next text communication is the following day or Saturday, the 29th at 11:54 a.m. Is that correct?
Yes.
And who was speaking in that communication and what is it?
That is the defendant, and the defendant said John died.
And did you respond to that at all?
No.
And did you have any other communication with Ms. Reed following receiving that text message on January 20th?
No, I have not.
What? You know what? That's pretty blah. I want some juicy stuff. I'm too tired. I gotta bed. I gotta work in the morning. I'm tired. Okay. That's all you guys get. Oops. Yeah, that's all you get. Let me bring this over. Okay. All right. Well, there it is. I don't think that she's guilty. I think that somebody killed him, and I think that they punched him, and the dog got in it, and I think it was in the house. I think that I would love to know the health or fitness data of the phones of everybody in that house that night. Maybe that's what this ARCA is. I can't wait till Friday, because that's when we're going to get more information. I don't know who's testifying on Friday, but I'm excited. So anyways, we'll see you guys next week. Oh, Friday night, maybe. Like, if it goes like really, if it's juicy. I'm gonna get Hate Your State, because Hate Your State's watching it too. I love my Hate Your State. He's fun. But we got it. I'm curious to think. He knows way more about this case than I do, because I think he watched the first trial or knows about the first trial. He knows way more about it than I do. So very interesting. We'll see you guys. Yeah. And I actually do have some paintings, son. But I actually am not completely done. It's almost done though. I don't know. Maybe I'll work on the videos. I got a bunch of projects in processes. Anyways, you guys have a good night. Let me see. Let me find a good. Let's see. Where's my? Oh, there it is. Okay. Night.